Welcome to the Atheist Republic Hangouts. I'm Makisha, and we are here with our festive gear. Well, some of us, myself, Mohammed. I have Christmas socks. Dirty Christmas. Oh my God, that's awful. Dirty Christmas socks. I'm sorry, that was really awful. You'll have to take my word for it. They have reindeers on them, and they're red and white. And Mohammed has a mustache, which apparently is indicative of festive.
Santa has a mustache, huh?
That's so great. But it's not edible, which made me sort of sad. I thought it was chocolate. Okay, I'm sorry. My voice is, I sound like an old smoker lady this morning, so trying to drink the water. So welcome to everybody who is here discussing with us today. Michael and Dorian and Abhishek and Vishnu and again myself, Makisha, and Armin, also known as Atheist Republic Man, since that's what his name says on his profile. Oh, new superhero, Atheist Republic Man. Yes. Dorian is going to indulge my request to try to come up with some kicky intro music. I feel like I should be doing I don't know, some sort of jig to that.
And remember, ladies and
Dorian.
What was that, Dorian?
And remember, ladies and gentlemen, God's not real.
That's right. Oh, you know, that's sort of the music we need to have to felt board characters. If you grew up in Sunday school at all, like the felt boards with the scenes, and then the felt Jesus and Moses, and they all looked sort of the same. They were all like European Moses with a big beard, looks just like European Job with a big beard, who looks just like European Joseph with a big beard. It's like, they were all just clones of each other, and oh man, they were fun though. So yeah, I need a big felt board behind me, and we can have Atheist Republic Man, and we can have the Flying Spaghetti Monster, and they can go on an adventure together to Dorian's music. Okay, that's what today's hangout is going to be. Nonsense. Who else do we have that just joined us? Lishka? I'm going to make it up because she's not there and she can't tell me I'm wrong. Welcome. Dorian has like a real music career. He is DorianWallace.com, right?
Yeah, DorianWallace.com.
Yeah, he's got cool music. He wrote some stuff for Human Light, and he's gonna write some stuff for us because we're lucky.
Yeah,
so check him out.
I'm working on an album right now. Just to give some background for those of you that are not familiar. I basically am a self-taught piano player and composer, but ended up going to college for it and getting the other extreme of like academic music. Now I work at lots of places in New York City. I worked at Columbia University, Juilliard School, and NYU as a piano player and composer, and I have my own basically chamber ensemble called 10th Intervention, which focuses on 21st century modern classical music.
So cool.
Yeah. So, anyways, like one of the things about the classical music tradition that actually Dawkins talks about it. Jesse Williams isn't here, which kind of sucks. But he had that reading group, and one of the book we read was The God Delusion. And, Richard Dawkins actually talked about how there's some really gorgeous religious music in the European tradition, And like Bach and Mozart all wrote religious music, and it doesn't take away from how incredible of musicians they were, blah, 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 blah. It also is kind of a showcase of the times because they had to write that kind of music just to be able to survive. Anyways, now, we're moving towards an actual secular society, and one of the things about classical music is, a lot of smart people, a lot of atheists are currently in the, well, at least like a lot of composers tend to be atheists or agnostics or something like that. So one of the things I've been trying to start to focus on is writing music that's in sort of a similar, like, triumphant vein, but focusing on um, secular ideas and sort of liberal political points of view.
I think that's so cool. I think anytime we have a musical genre or theme that is very dominated by one particular group, I think it's always cool when there's other voices that come in particular, in this case, secular voices in classical music is a really cool thing. You find more of it in soundtracks and stuff, I guess. You find more secular, sort of classical-esque.
Well, if you see, Interstellar, Hans Zimmer's score, it's in the minimalist vein, which kind of came from Steve Reich and Terry Riley and Philip Glass. And it's really interesting that that kind of music is now, being put into film scores, and especially at that high of a level too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us, and maybe we'll play around with some more stuff today. Somebody joined us as Atheist Republic, probably somebody who does I'm sorry, some of our social media stuff, so they have
No, that's me. I'm just
okay.
I just set it with two computers just in case this one crashes. I have the other one running.
Oh, okay.
So we don't lose the Hangout.
Okay, never mind then. So I wanted to give, before we get into any sort of conversation, I wanted to give a shout out to Mohammed for organizing our Secret Santa. It's always I think sometimes we really understate how brave it is to take on something new within a community of people. Doing something new by yourself is one thing, but doing something new when there's an investment of other people involved, especially money and time and things like that, I think is actually kind of a brave thing. So thank you, Mohammed, for taking that on and just completely taking charge and running with it. I want to give people an opportunity to talk about that experience or share what they got or what they sent, if it wouldn't be a spoiler if they've already received it. Mohammed, you want to start with anything?
I actually can't say about what I sent yet because the person hasn't received it.
That's
And
cool.
I can't talk about what I received either because I haven't home. But I do want to say thank you to all the people who participated and to all the people who haven't received gifts yet. Your gifts are coming. You sent me your addresses and such. I'm working with the people that are your Secret Santas. If you haven't received a gift yet, because we're trying to make sure everything gets to you before Christmas, so you can open it by Christmas and then think, oh man, Atheist Republic is awesome. Everyone who hasn't received a gift yet, it's coming. And to everybody that sent one, and in some cases more than one, thank you very, very much. And again, thanks so much, guys. I really want this to be a good thing for the team and for everybody involved, and you guys are making it amazing, which is wonderful. So thank you very much.
It's very cool. I want to get you to say that again sometime and add it into a mix. Aw, Atheist Republic is awesome.
No, yeah, we're gonna work on that. That's gonna be the theme, the Hangouts. It comes up. Aw, Atheist Republic is awesome.
Exactly.
something like that.
That'd be so great. Oh, good times. I did not participate in the Secret Santa because I knew that my life is way too crazy and I wouldn't be able to commit to making it happen. But I'm really glad that that everybody got on board. Well, not everybody, but that a bunch of people got on board and were very good sports about it all. Because these kinds of things are fun. I like it when people take some risks and do fun stuff to encourage our team. And I'm starting to feel like these Hangouts are a really good space for a lot of that to happen, and it's becoming a little bit of a simmer pot for some ideas like this, and I'm excited to see the stuff that comes out down the road. So thank you again. Anybody else? Armin, you got yours. Don't forget that you're muted if you start talking. Armin, you got your Secret Santa?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to go get it, but I don't know.
But you have to get up.
I have to get up, and my wife is still sleeping, and I don't want to wake her up. It's in the bedroom. But they're beautiful. I got it from Michael. They are. His mother painted them. It's right there, and they are really, really nice. I want to go get them framed, but I have to figure out where to put them. But they're really nice. The thing is that when he told me that his mother painted them, it reminded me of my mom because she used to love to do artwork and share it with us. So it was kind of nostalgic. So
that's cool.
Thank you.
Oh, nice. Anybody else? No other presents to share? All right. Yes, we're going to say something, Armin? You took a breath.
Okay. I just want to say I sent out my second Secret Santa a few days ago. It will get to. It hasn't. I sent one already, but the second one will arrive soon.
Awesome.
And I think both of the people that I sent gifts to are not here, which makes me sad.
Aww.
But it's okay.
What I was like? So I was gonna say that in Canada, our family likes to joke that our mail is delivered by drunk moose because I have such a problem getting things and sending things, and I don't know. It seems like something will come from an hour away and it takes 3 weeks. I don't know if it's just me or. It's Vancouver.
I take deliveries. Yeah, it's Vancouver. I take deliveries about once every 3 months. I'll get stuff from all over the planet, and I'd say 50% of the stuff that comes through Vancouver either is broken, it's almost always opened. It's almost like they're shopping in my mail, and it's like, oh, this is the grooviest thing in the world. He doesn't need it, and then bam, it's gone. You never see it, and you think, like Armin, for instance, has 2 presents coming. One which explains the one he's currently got. There's a letter in it. But they were mailed the same day. Where's the second one? So I just had to throw that in there because Vancouver has become a bit of a running gag in our house. If you get a package mailed anywhere on the West Coast to Canada, maybe send 2. So.
Well, I am not pleased about this at all because it is like there's things that people have sent that never came, and cool postcards sent from all over the world, and who knows? I don't know. It's been months. I'll probably get them next year or something crazy.
I get a lot of checks in my mail that is not meant for me, like paychecks.
Oh
man,
yeah.
Those poor people.
Yeah. Like checks with like high sums, but it's not in my name. I'm like, I wonder if I could use this somehow. Then I have to keep going. At first, it's like looks really nice, but then I realized that I have to actually go mail it to somebody.
And that's what happens when people don't have God. They think about stealing other people's paychecks.
Right.
See? People.
In New York City, sometimes you'll literally order something like there's a place called Lovely Music. They're like an independent record label. I ordered this like book from them like maybe a month and a half ago. I work next to their office, like, so, you know, I could, like, just knock on the door and be like, hey, that book that, you know, I ordered, do you have it? You know, but it hasn't shown up in the mail yet. Like, it's, like, literally, like, a half hour away.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Well, you've got couriers there, so you should just, you know, have somebody bike it over or something.
Right.
We have a baby. Hi,
Right.
baby.
Say thank you for his present. He loves it.
He looks so thrilled.
He was very thrilled, but stop and say
Hi,
hi,
baby. Oh,
You're a mess, so we gotta go. So bye.
bye. We love babies. I love babies, especially when they're on the other side of my computer screen. But that baby was pretty cute. I have older kids, you have to understand. My kids stayed home last night by themselves while I went out and partied for hours, so you can't do that with a baby. There's a benefit to them growing up. Okay, Armin had a good, we didn't have a topic for today. This is just, you know, holidays are coming and everybody's probably occasionally nursing hangovers and whatever, so I didn't really have a topic and didn't invite anybody to interview because I am on the ball. So I actually did kind of intentionally leave it open. But Armin had a good conversation topic of Santa Claus versus Jesus. I like some sort of, I don't know, wrestling theme or something like that. Santa Claus versus Jesus. So, does anybody want to take that off? Armin, you brought it up. Launch us.
Well, I don't know. I just brought it up because it keeps coming up every Christmas. Atheists like to point out how similar they are with regards to punishment and motivation for good behavior. And they try to, like the fact that Santa is imaginary and kids don't believe in kids won't believe in it after a while. They try to keep pointing out that Jesus is the same. They call it Santa Claus for adults. So I don't know. I don't think that was the original intention of Santa Claus. It was mostly Santa Claus. If I understand, if I remember correctly, it was a saint that then got picked up by. His story was picked up by Coca-Cola and turned into this commercial way of commercialized version of him for advertising, and then after that, a whole bunch of other things was added to the story, and then after that, just this one song made it about Santa, made him like he has a list. If you're naughty or nice, he will give you presents or you get coal. So I don't think that Santa's story was originally had anything to do with motivating good behavior, but I don't think it's used like that now. But it's interesting. It's an interesting comparison.
He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He
So
knows
creepy.
bad or good.
That's really creepy.
Yeah, actually, that's very much godlike. He knows where you're sleeping. You know, like he's like basically just like.
He's a demigod.
Yeah, and actually, you know what? It's very interesting because in that song it says be good for goodness sake.
Yeah.
But if you're being good for the sake of getting present, then you're not really being good for goodness sake. That's a contradiction. But actually, that song has a very interesting philosophical, discussion in it, because that will bring us to religion as well. Because if you're actually being good for the sake of heaven or for the sake of avoiding hell, then you're not actually being good. And that song about Santa captures that. At first it says like, oh, he has a list, you're gonna get he's watching you, and then it contradicts that cost-benefit analysis at the end by saying be good for goodness sake. So wait, why are we being good again? So
I love picking apart, what is that, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, or whatever that song is. And like some sort of theological, epistemological analysis of Santa Claus is Coming to Town. My kids just think it's creepy. The whole, like, Santa watching you and coming into your house when you're asleep. And they're like, you know, people who do that, you're supposed to stay away from them, not write them wish lists and sit on their lap.
Right. In many other circumstances, people would get arrested for that.
Right. Yes, sweetie, go sit on the nice stranger's lap and then take candy from him and tell him all of your dreams. It's okay. It's Christmas.
Unfortunately, only the rich people are the ones who actually get what you ask this guy.
That's right. That's right. But if you're poor, Santa doesn't like you anyway. That's awful.
But
And the reindeer, like, reindeer are scary. They could, like, gore you. I don't know. It's all kind of disturbing.
Well, the comedian Louis Black has a really great bit. Try and find it here, but he talks about, like, being Jewish compared to being a Christian during the holidays. And he's just like, you know, I went over to my Christian friend's house, and it's like, they've got 6 ponies. Just, oh, whatever. We're only going to get her 1, but Merry Christmas. It's like, and for me, I got a pencil.
That's funny.
something that's been popping up on my newsfeed on Facebook a lot, it happens every year around Christmas time, are the posts that compare the devotion that children and people in general, but mostly children, have towards Santa Claus, like the reverence, and how Jesus feels left out because of it, even though it's his birthday. So, like, it's always like Jesus and Santa having a conversation, and Jesus talking about, hey, Santa, everybody always forgets about me during Christmas, even though it's my birthday. Why is that? And, like, the whole thing is just so dumb, but it's also so entertaining and wrong at the same time. Like, that's the thing that Santa thinks the most.
I think the idea about
Jesus was more interesting. I mean, as far as Nicholas is concerned, he was, I think he lived in like the 3rd century or something like that in Turkey, and he was from a wealthy family, so he would leave money in people's shoes around that time. So he actually helped the poor. Oh my gosh, what a concept. But yeah, and eventually his name turned into Santa Claus thanks to the Dutch, long story short, I guess. But yeah, that was the intent, to help out poor people, not to glorify rich people. And, you know, money, 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 commercialism, and yeah, stretch your budgets way too thin and put everything on credit cards and, yeah, just ruin your life over a holiday.
Yeah, I heard his actual story was that he used to try to get into orphanages and leave kids gifts before they wake up. And then, I don't know if this is true, but I heard like one time that the windows were locked because they didn't want him to let him in anymore, and then he threw the gifts out inside down the chimney because he couldn't get in. And then that's what the whole story came from, like Santa Claus coming down the chimney and stuff.
And that's still a much more interesting story than Jesus.
I don't know. Jesus' story is pretty interesting, even if it's. Even like if we don't believe in it, I find Jesus' story interesting.
Sure. It says here, Saint Nicholas of Myra was a 4th century Greek Christian bishop of Myra, a province in, I'm gonna fuck this up, of the Byzantine Anatolia, now in Turkey.
Right.
Nicholas was famous for his generous gifts to the poor, in particular presenting the 3 impoverished daughters of a pious Christian with dowries so that they would not have to become prostitutes. So,
what a good guy.
Yeah, so he was just basically kind of a nice dude. And
yeah, and obviously he became a saint.
Right.
His name wasn't Saint Nicholas originally. It was, they turned him into a saint, but so he didn't.
Like the way the Catholic Church goes, he could have been a pedophile. You know, he sees you when you're sleeping, He knows when you're awake.
Probably not St. Nicholas. At least we hope not. But
Right, just please don't be a Bill Cosby. Please don't.
Right.
It was better than canonizing St. John Paul II, who was notorious for protecting the pedophiles.
Right.
So, yes, St. Nicholas, yeah, probably a better choice for sainthood if you're into that sort of thing.
I'm sorry, go on. I was going to say, you guys have heard about this. This is a big deal. I think a few months ago there was a news anchor on Channel 5, Fox News, which is famous for being very, very misinformative and biased. But basically, she got really upset because there was a black Santa Claus, and she reassured all of her viewers that, hey, you guys know that Santa Claus is real and white, right? She was just going so very, very hard to convince people that Santa Claus was white, even though he's a made-up fictional entity.
Jesus was white too. Megyn Kelly, by the way.
Yeah.
And apparently she had to get on later on and say that she was being sarcastic or something like that. I don't know. The backlash was bad for that one.
No, she was definitely. She was completely serious. I saw the original and her apology. She thinks Santa Claus.
Can you guys see the picture?
Yes, sort of.
This has been passing around in some Muslim. I don't know where. I think it's in a Muslim country. I think it's in Egypt. They're trying to say Santa is a Christian way of. It's basically promoting Christian religion. So they're trying to say Muslims should be against the spread of Christmas. And I don't know. I think it's in Egypt. I'm not sure if it's Egypt, Indonesia, or where was it. But anyways.
Wow, so kicking poor Santa Claus's butt. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is a tough. It looks like a Middle Eastern pie or something. That's like a sailor's hat on. Somebody's making an echo. Fix your echo machine, people.
What? I couldn't hear you over the echo. What was that? What was that? What was that? What was that?
Let's just start echoing everything. Well, I actually was not allowed to believe in Santa when I was a kid, so I never had that, or anything actually. There was no Easter Bunny or Santa.
Why not?
Probably because it was the whole, Christmas is about Jesus stuff. My parents are actually kind of consistent in that regard, and they didn't want to teach us that something that you couldn't see was real when it wasn't real, when they were expecting us to believe in something we couldn't see that in their minds was real. Does that make sense? So I think in a sense that they didn't want us to get confused, it was kind of consistent, at least. We don't want to tell them about Santa because they can't see Santa and he's not real, and we're telling them about God and they can't see God, but he is real, and so we don't want to create confusion. So Santa
wouldn't that be inconsistent?
No, I think it makes sense if you're trying not to confuse your kids.
Well, because
let me process this out. Okay, so I'm not. Maybe it is not consistent, but let me think about this. So Santa is something that when you're a little kid, your parents will tell you Santa is real and Santa is going to bring you presents. But then once you get to a certain age, then your parents tell you, well, actually Santa's not real. We bring you presents. So if they also tell you God is real and God hears your prayers and God loves you, but you believe both of those things simultaneously as a kid, and then later on they tell you Santa's not real, then you might be inclined to say, oh, well, God's not real either. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes. So you're not consistent between how you find out something is true, or not consistent, but your parents have been consistent with what they told you.
Right.
throughout your life.
Right.
Yes.
So they only told us about things that we couldn't see and we were supposed to believe in if they believed it was actually true and real.
Yeah.
It's so freaking crazy that it can actually just get people to do that and not think that's insane.
Yeah, I don't know, but that was us. No Santa, no Easter Bunny, no Tooth Fairy. I mean, we obviously knew about them, but it wasn't something that they tried to get us to believe in or anything.
Tisha, was it difficult for you when you were a kid in school? Like, if the other kids, they held a strong belief that Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny, they were real, and, you know, because of the way your parents raised you, you believe that, or you knew that they were not real. Did that ever cause issues in school? Like, did you ever feel, like, unhappy or sad or picked on because of the differences?
I didn't, but I was always a very sort of rational kid, and that kind of stuff didn't really bother me. But I was actually I would have been more likely to be the little asshole who like ruined it for every other little kindergartner. Like, Santa is not real. And all these little kids, oh! So I would be more likely to be that kid. I have two daughters, and one would be that kid, and one would be the one that would feel bad for everybody. And
wait, it's the 9-year-old and the 12-year-old, right?
yeah, my 9-year-old is more like me, so she's the one who has to really try hard not to ruin it for everybody because she's a little scientist, and she would be the one who'd be like, okay, seriously guys, think about this for a second. and totally ruin it for everyone, and I'd be getting the phone calls from angry parents who are like, what the hell are you thinking, ruining Christmas for my child?
That's actually an interesting thing too. Like, if you have a child, like, for instance, if I was in a position where I had a child who was 9 years old or 12 years old, and they were attending a public school with other children, I like, if I told my kid that Santa Claus isn't real, or that, you know, it's just a story that people make up to, like, make other people behave or to propagate religion, whatever it is. If they go to school and they tell their friends the same thing, why should I get in trouble for something that is clearly true? Like, the kids' parents know Santa Claus isn't real, so why is there repercussions for me being honest with my child? Like, that always blows my mind, because that's the thing in schools in America where you do get in trouble as a parent if your kid tells other kids that Santa Claus isn't real. There have been, like, documented cases of that. So that's just mind-blowing to me. Like, yeah. That the lies to children are institutionalized, and you're punished if you're honest with your kid.
Parent politics, good times, man.
It really is just kind of a micro version of the real world, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't tell my kids not to talk about stuff. It's more we have really long conversations about social politics and how we have unspoken social contracts, and you can choose to go against those, and that's fine. Hopefully at many points in time in your life you will, but also you have to be informed about the consequences. So it's a pick your battles kind of thing, you know. I'm like, some kids get quite emotional when they find out the truth about Santa, and so it's kind of like, well, you can ruin it for your friends, but here's what might happen. We're also very open and informative with our kids about all things sex, and my kids would also be the ones who would share those sorts of things. So we have to also be like, let's leave that up to their parents.
Actually, that happened with me. With the day that my father told me about how sex works and what sex is and everything, I was so shocked that I had to tell everybody. And actually, when my father told me that, the first question that came to my mind was like, did Prophet Muhammad did this too? And my dad says, well, probably. I'm like, no, he would not do such a thing.
Oh my gosh, Patty Armin is so adorable.
When I explained this to other kids in school, the first thing that I said after, like, even Prophet Muhammad did this. That's what I tell every other kid. Like,
That is so great. That's so great.
Armin, how old were you when your father told you about sex for the first time?
7.
Wow, that's young.
Yeah, well, he's a
doctor.
Yeah, he's a doctor, and he had like these books and gross pictures and showed me. I was really traumatized. I was like, why would anybody want to do such a thing?
Oh, that's great. That's good stuff. little Armin getting shocked by the birds and the bees. It's a great picture.
I just love that like image of tiny Armin going like, "That's gross."
Even
So
Muhammad?
adorable.
What? Say it ain't so. Oh God. Oh, that's so cute. Santa and Jesus. I don't know. I think that's kind of weak. But then again, I do actually believe in a historical Jesus. So I know a lot of atheists who don't believe that he didn't even exist. So I suppose it would make more sense if you believed that Jesus didn't exist.
Well, if he existed, which I also think he existed, because I follow Bart Ehrman's analysis on this, and he's an agnostic atheist biblical scholar, and he really believes that the whole story was based on a true figure. But the thing is that even he believes that the story has so much add-on to it that it's kind of like, even if he is real, it's like 20% based on the real Jesus, 80% add-on.
Yeah.
It's like Steve Jobs.
That's good.
You know, it's the thing about like a lot of like biblical stories or religious stories is I actually dig the stories, and I wish I could just have a normal conversation with like anybody and just be like, "Whoa, dude, it's so crazy! Like the Jesus guy was like a real dude," and you know, like I think that would be a great time. Just like right now, I'm watching the Marco Polo TV show. It's on Netflix now. It's brand new. It's about Marco Polo, and it's like it's caused me to go back and look at the real Marco Polo, and just find out what's real and what's not, and like research about like Genghis Khan and Kublai Khan and all this crazy stuff. And I wish like they could, do that with like Christ or Muhammad, or you can't because they're these religious figures. So it's like you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to just have that conversation anywhere without somebody possibly getting pissed off or people getting offended or worst case scenario rioting and killing people. Like
I don't know. I think it depends on the group of people you're around. I mean, I've had some good conversations like that. If you approach it, if as long as I've approached it from the stance of not being antagonistic,
Right.
Sometimes it's actually a good idea. Like it's kind of fun to not even, if you're in a group of strangers who don't really know your position, to not even really go there. Just talk about Jesus or whatever. But for sure, once if you were to out yourself, then people tend to get a little prickly and start getting defensive, which it's like you don't have to defend yourself, and we already know where I stand and where you stand, so let's just get past that and have a good conversation. But yeah.
An interesting thing is that the idea of Jesus not being real at all is so accepted among some atheists, and somehow it has translated to them even believing that any religious-based story is 100% not real. So I hear sometimes like atheists saying like, "Oh, Muhammad is like, what are you talking about? It's like a fictional story, and like I don't believe in fiction. When people talk about Muhammad, like, why are you talking about Muhammad? That's a fictional character." I was like, yeah, no, Muhammad is not a fictional character. There's a dispute over Jesus, but there is, among historians, there is no, like, all historians, whether Muslim, atheist, or Christian, the Muhammad figure was there and real, and his existence is pretty accepted among all scholars.
Yeah, I think, and the unfortunate thing about that is it takes away credibility from the whole conversation. Like when things like that are said, it can make those conversations. It sort of makes everything just stop dead, you know, because when somebody says something like that, when an atheist says something like that, it's like, well, no, you're wrong. So now it's kind of like when they're talking to another religious person, the religious person is like, oh my God, really? That's really what you believe? And it sort of takes away credibility, you know. So I think that's unfortunate. That it kind of bums me out when that happens, but because there's definitely a lot of historical evidence for a lot of religious figures.
Well, that's okay, because most religious people I talk to about Islam, they don't have much of an understanding of their own stories anyways. It's kind of like Christians. They don't really know most of the stories, other than what they learned in kindergarten and their picture books about Muhammad. That's basically it.
Felt boards.
I had an interesting situation with my mother. My parents are, well, realistically, I think I know my mom's really religious, and I think my dad just goes along with it because he likes my mom a lot. Anyways, there was like when my mom like found out I was an atheist. This is like legitimately like 2 years ago. Like, you know, fucking 29 years old, and like still having my mom flip out on me. Like, you know. But anyways, she calls me up and she's like, I was on a website. I was like, yeah. She's like, you're listed as an atheist. I'm like, yeah, I told you I was an atheist. And she goes, no, I knew you were questioning things, but you're actually an atheist? And like, and she started
bless her heart.
And I'm just like, oh, Mom, like, I don't really want to talk about this with you. Like, can we just not? I thought it was pretty clear. And she's like, well, I knew you were soul searching. Anyways, so finally, the big question she had for me. My grandmother had recently died when this happened, and she was like, all right, where's Grandma? Where do you think she is? And I was like, Mom, we should not have this conversation. I don't think you need to know where I think she is. I loved Grandma. She was a beautiful person. I miss her all the time. But, you know, like, we shouldn't talk about this, like, right now. It was totally crazy because one of the quotes she said that blew my mind, she goes, listen, I understand that evolution is real and that, you know, we're learning more and more about space, but where do you think Grandma is? It was just like, yeah.
That's sad.
It is, like, and the weird thing is she's actually pretty rational. You know, that exists too, in her background. So.
Yeah.
You know.
That's a big one. That's a big one. But I mean, all of us who grew up with some sort of teaching of hell asked that question all the time.
Right.
Well, where's Uncle Jerry? He was a dirty hippie. Like, where's Aunt Sarah? She went out and danced naked in the woods. You know, it's like we all had those people, and it was explained in some really, really confusing way to us, or just completely dismissed. So then to ask that question of an atheist is just, it sort of seems, I don't know, redundant at that point. It's kind of like, well, you weren't able to answer that question for me before about anybody else. How do you think I'm supposed to answer that question for you now?
Right.
Yeah, it's a little disingenuous. I think it's because more so people don't, like, they have these structured beliefs that so-and-so is in so-and-so place after they pass on, so they're well aware of where they are, and you don't know, so clearly you're wrong.
Right.
But even then, there's so much argument as to, oh, I think this person went to heaven, or I think this person went to hell, and then you ask somebody else, no, that person definitely went to hell, or whatever it is. the whole argument to me is ridiculous. And my dad, he's really big into science. He was a chemical engineer, loves the book Cosmos and Carl Sagan, but he constantly nags me about the salvation of Christ and whatever, wanting to save my immortal soul. And, I love my dad, and it's nice that he's concerned, but I told him, Dad, there's just no proof of any of this. And if somebody's going to go to heaven or hell, it's not even up to us to determine. So, if heaven is full of repentant sex offenders and murderers and stuff, I think I'd rather be in hell. Sorry, Dad.
Well,
I think go ahead, Armin. Go ahead.
one thing actually that this shows is like when your parents are so upset that you might end up in hell. Well, let's say you do end up in hell and they end up in heaven. Will they be happy when they're in heaven? If they're not happy in heaven, how is that heaven? Because heaven is supposed to be full of happiness, and if they know that you're in hell, if their memories are wiped off of your existence, then let me just stop this echo. Then how do they? Then it's not really them, because part of who your parents really are is your parents with your memory and the love for you and everything. So either they don't know who you are, or they don't remember you anymore, and they're in heaven, which is not them anymore, or they know you're in hell, and I don't know how they could be happy in heaven while they know that.
Well, and that brings up a good point. I mean, if you're the kind of person who's going to sit up there on your cloud in heaven and look down on people who are in hell with your nose all in the air, then you're probably a jerk and don't belong in heaven in the first place. But hey, if that's what you think you're a great person, and you're going to look down your nose on other people because they might be bad and they might be in hell, whatever. I don't even want to talk to people like that. I can't handle that.
Sounds like the situation we have right now.
How's that?
Well, when you look at the, I always joke about Republican Jesus, and they're rich. They've got the whole world is at their fingertips, and instead of doing anything for the species, their chosen path is to look down their nose, just as you said, and be superior at us. And it's almost like a parallel of what they imagine heaven is going to be.
It's disgusting. I mean, and I don't know how they justify that when Jesus was supposed to be the kind of person who didn't look down upon the poor, who wanted to help them out. And you're right, you have Republican Jesus who's a complete jerk.
Big time.
Wait. Actually, one thing that atheist liberals always say about Jesus is that he was always a nice guy. He was not always a nice guy. Like, a lot of people try to make fun of Christians, like, oh, they're not being Christ-like. Christians are not Christ-like. He was nice half of the time. If you read the New Testament, he was pretty mean to to people that didn't believe in him. He was kind of racist too. And he yelled at a date tree for not having, I don't know, was it date tree or a tree? He yelled at it. He cursed the tree for not having fruit when he wanted it to have fruits.
I think that makes perfect sense. I have a plum tree in my backyard that I go cuss out every day because it still hasn't yielded. It really pisses me off. So I am totally on board with Jesus about cussing out fruit trees. Actually, I mean, there's a lot of there's a couple things that I was thinking. One thing I was thinking is that growing up, a lot of even in my more conservative circles, people didn't actually talk about heaven and hell a lot. I didn't grow up in a really hardcore fundamentalist environment, and so there wasn't a lot of hellfire and brimstone damnation sort of talk. Maybe in the tent revival meetings or something sometimes, but those conversations didn't really happen a lot, and understandably so, because they're very difficult to explain and to really talk about with any sort of reasonable intelligence. The other thing is there's a little bit of an out in one particular theology in Christianity, which is the once saved, always saved theology, which is that if you accepted Jesus as your Savior at one point in your life, you can't actually lose your salvation no matter what you do. So that's a good one. Unless you deny Christ outright. Like if you deny Christ outright in a particular way, then some people might say that you can lose your salvation that way. But really for me, like the main thing I think is that it's kind of sad if you have people in your life who genuinely believe that you're going to hell because of what you believe or don't believe. It means nothing to me. I just feel really sad for that person that they are feeling so bad, especially if it's somebody I care about, that they're genuinely horrified that you're going to end up burning in a lake of fire for eternity. And I think that's a really, so I try to reassure people. I'm like, please, just it's okay. It's okay. I'll be all right. Don't worry about it. Especially if it's grandma or something. I just think it's sad for them that they're so torn up about it. Because I'm fine.
But one thing I would suggest is not to completely ignore talking to your parents about these things. I mean, I don't know. For everybody, it's different. And you could judge this based on your relationship better than anybody else. But I ended up talking. My parents believed in God at some point, and me talking to them, now all my family is atheist. Both of my parents went from being believers in God to being now atheist. Both of my brothers are now atheist because of talking to me, and this wasn't me going to them and trying to tell them that this is why you should be atheist. This was just them asking me questions about why I'm an atheist and me just responding to them. So.
Yeah, I think those conversations obviously should happen at whatever stage people are at. The dynamics in people's families are also different too. Usually, I found that these kinds of things happen in stages, and bringing up questions about theology is a really good start, especially if you know a lot about theology and your family is really religious. It can be helpful to actually just bring up questions about that stuff, or bring up quotes of people who are really devout but think differently about something, just getting people to think a different way about the same thing is sometimes the only place you can start. Just saying, okay, we're talking about the same thing. We're talking about Jesus and God in the Bible, and this person is a devout Christian, and they think slightly different about this one particular issue. Sometimes it has to happen incrementally, in very tiny ways like that. At least I found for some people.
On that topic, it's kind of interesting because I've noticed an interesting effect at my work, which would fall in with this. Just existing as an atheist, openly. I'm known at my work as a bit of a militant atheist. It's almost your presence alone gets people thinking. And I've watched it happen. I've been like this now for quite a few years, probably 3 or 4 years at my work. And there's hundreds of people at my job. And you'll see how they'll start to gravitate in different directions. And then when they speak to you, the people who believe like you will kind of gravitate towards yourself, and the others who don't, they kind of gravitate away. But you'll see the conversations happening all over the organization. And that's not from anything I'm saying. I keep this part of my life entirely separate from my work. It's just the very fact you exist that way. They know I've done this book, and most of them don't even know what it's called, but they know what I'm about. And that has an effect. So in a family unit, I've come from a small family with just my brother and my mom. So I don't see the dynamic you guys are seeing in larger families because just too small. But in a big work environment with hundreds of people, you can just see just the mere presence of an atheist who's open about it. It has an effect. And it's kind of a cool thing to watch because over the years, I've watched people who would, the apatheist is how it's pronounced. They kind of gone from not really caring to, if asked, they'll say, oh yeah, no, of course not. That's whatever. That's this or that's that. They'll have an opinion now. And for no other reason than they've seen someone there who's like that. So it's just something I wanted to point out, kind of interesting thing.
Yeah, I think it's actually similar to having like the token Muslim in the office, or so like when people have conversations about anything that might be related to Islam or something, they always know that, or even just religion in general, if that person's present or even in the space, it makes people think about it and then can sort of direct the conversation in a certain way, one way or the other, depending on what that person is like, or whatever. But I think it can almost be like that, like it makes people, instead of just having a big echo chamber where everybody knows they agree with each other, knowing that there's somebody around who believes very differently can help contribute to the conversation, even if you're not talking.
That's right.
Yeah.
This is how the gay rights movements became very successful. The gay rights movement was mainly based on this idea that just being open, you don't have, just being open about you being gay, like telling people, like that will just change minds. You don't even have to convince people, actively try to convince people that why being gay is fine. Just people knowing more and more people out there that are gay will make them think about the issue and think like, wait, this guy I know is gay, that guy I know is gay, and normalize the existence of the gay community. And this is something that should happen with atheists. Just one thing we're doing with Atheist Republic is not even like just the fact that we exist, a lot of us exist, will basically normalize the idea of atheist people are just like other people. Even if you don't convince people that that there is no God or not, even if you don't convince them of that, just them seeing that there's so many atheists out there will make them more and more okay with the fact that these are just these are not demons, immoral people, that they're just like So basically, it's just following the model of the gay rights movement.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's important to put a face on ideas. I think humanizing ideas is really important because people have ideas and we have beliefs, but we are people, and it's important to humanize those ideas and beliefs so that people see a person instead of something that they disagree with. It enriches the conversation as well. So on that note, as we wrap up our hour, go out there and put a face on your atheism. Whatever that looks like to you.
Something?
Yeah.
You're talking about putting a face on atheism. Here, there's a link. I'm looking for fictional writers for poetry and for short stories.
Oh, awesome.
You just said it. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to put the academic discussion of atheism into the art world now. You mentioned Philip Glass and composers that were secular, Dorian, and yeah, it's exactly that. I'm trying to bring the literary world there. So there you go. That's my plug. I'll stop.
That's very cool. No, thanks for plugging that, because
Can you say it out loud, because this is going to go on YouTube and people are not going to see the link.
Oh well, okay. The link is theatheist.ca. So you can find it if you search for theatheist.ca.
Okay.
And I think we could put some of these links here in the YouTube video discussion or whatever as well, right, Armin? Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Great, awesome. So thank you, everybody. Anybody who wants to stay and chat with each other, obviously you're welcome to, but we are going to go offline now. Thanks. Have a great week. Happy holidays.